Just a quick message. This clip you're about to watch on my Stop Retiring Wrong channel are my words and books and educational events, but they're filtered through AI. But I am real, and my clients and their issues are very real, and my research is not AI. And I want to be very transparent with you as you take advantage of this only psychotherapist curated tool available that intersects fulfillment and finances and reframes the second half of your life into something that truly our parents and our grandparents never could even have imagined. So congratulations.
When work stops, who are you really? The retirement identity crisis nobody warns you about. Before we begin this discussion on identity, I have an important disclosure. I am a licensed therapist. Any stories, examples, or scenarios shared in this video are generalized or composite representations designed to protect privacy and confidentiality. They are not intended to depict any specific client or individual. This content is for educational and informational purposes only and explores the psychological challenges of life transitions. As a mental health professional, I adhere to all ethical and legal standards regarding confidentiality. This content is not intended as individualized mental health, legal, or financial advice. You spent 30, maybe 40 years building something. A career, a title, a routine that gave your mornings meaning and your weekends a finish line to look forward to. And then one day it's done. The desk is cleared. The farewell cake gets eaten. That's not retirement. That's a crisis wearing a retirement badge. And millions of people walk into it every single year completely unprepared because nobody told them that the hardest part of retirement isn't the money. It's the mirror. So today, we are going deep into something real, something uncomfortable. The retirement identity crisis, what it is, why it hits the people who work the hardest the worst, and how to actually get through it without losing yourself on the other side. Let's go. Your job was quietly doing your identity's job. Here's something nobody admits out loud. For most working people, their job is not just a job. It's an answer. What do? And here's the brutal truth. You didn't just work for the paycheck. You worked for the identity, the structure, the sense of being needed, being seen, being relevant in a world that is constantly asking what you contribute. When retirement strips that away, it doesn't just change your schedule. It pulls the floor out from under your entire sense of self. And most people don't see it coming because they were too busy working to notice how much of themselves they had poured into the job. That's not a weakness. That's just what happens when you give something decades of your life. The permanent vacation lie. Let's talk about fantasy, because every single person who retires has believed it to some degree. I'll finally travel. I'll finally read. I'll finally relax. I've earned this. I'm going to enjoy every second. And for the first few weeks, it's great. Actually, it was great. You sleep in. You eat lunch at noon for the first time since college. You watch a film on a Wednesday afternoon and feel like a rebel. It feels like freedom. Then month 2 hits. The novelty fades. The trips get quieter. The reading pile feels less exciting. And you start waking up at 5 in your old work time, not because you have to, but because your body doesn't know what else to do. You find yourself refreshing your email even though you don't have one anymore. You start calling former colleagues just to feel connected to something that still moves, still has deadlines, still has stakes. Permanent vacation sounds perfect in theory. In practice, humans are not built for it. We need purpose. We need contribution. When retirement removes that, the vacation stops feeling like a reward and starts feeling like an exile. And that is when the identity crisis truly begins. Why the high achievers fall the hardest. This is the part that surprises people. You'd think the most successful, most driven, most accomplished professionals would transition into retirement the smoothest. They've won at everything else, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. Research consistently shows that people who tie their deepest sense of self-worth to professional achievement struggle the most in retirement. The more prestigious the career, the steeper the fall. CEOs, surgeons, military commanders, senior partners. These are people who define themselves through excellence, through being at the top, through having a room change slightly when they walked in. Retirement doesn't just change their schedule, it dismantles their entire hierarchy of meaning. They go from being someone who mattered enormously in a specific context to being just a person, like everyone else. And for someone who spent 40 years at the absolute peak of their identity, that landing is brutal. That's not ingratitude. That's grief, real legitimate grief for a version of yourself that no longer exists. The relationship earthquake nobody talks about, here's where it gets awkward. Because the identity crisis doesn't stay inside you, it radiates outward, into your marriage, into your friendships, into your family. Your spouse married someone who had a rhythm, a purpose, a life outside the home. Suddenly, you're home, all day, every day. And as sweet as that sounds, it is a massive disruption to a domestic ecosystem that evolved without you in it constantly. Couples who never argued start arguing, not about big things about the dishwasher, about who controls the thermostat, about whether lunch should be at noon or 1. These aren't fights about dishes or temperatures. These are fights about territory, about space, about two people trying to renegotiate an entire relationship without a manual. And friendships? Most of your friendships were workplace friendships, built on shared stress, shared gossip, shared goals. Remove the workplace and you discover painfully that some of those friendships had no other foundation. Retirement doesn't just change your identity, it reorganizes every relationship around it. The clock problem too much time is its own punishment. There's a concept in psychology called time affluence, the feeling of having enough time. Studies show people who feel time affluent are happier, less stressed, and more generous. Sounds perfect for retirement, except, and here's the catch, too much unstructured time doesn't produce time affluence. It produces anxiety. When every hour is free, nothing feels special. When you can do anything, it becomes harder to do anything. The days blur, weeks disappear. You lose track of what day it is, what month it is, and slowly what the point is. Retirees who struggle the most report a strange phenomenon. They feel busier than ever, but accomplish nothing that feels meaningful. They fill time instead of using it. The problem isn't that retirement gives you too little to do. The problem is that it gives you too much freedom without a framework. And freedom without framework isn't liberation. It's just chaos with better hours. How to rebuild the identity doesn't retire, it transforms. Okay. Here's where we stop describing the problem and start actually doing something about it. The people who navigate retirement well, they exist. And they are remarkable, share one common thread. They didn't retire from something, they retired towards something. That distinction sounds small. It is everything. Before they handed in their badge, they had already begun building a next version of themselves. Not a lesser version, not a retired version, a transformed version. They took the skills their career built and pointed them somewhere new. The executive who became a business mentor, the teacher who started writing curriculum for underfunded schools, the nurse who became the most knowledgeable volunteer at a local health clinic. They didn't abandon their identity, they relocated it. Here's what actually works. Practically, structure your week like it matters, because it does. 3 to 4 anchoring activities those is consistent, meaningful, and require your presence. Not hobbies for their own sake. Commitments. Things people are counting on you for. Invest in relationships outside work now, not when you retire. Build friendships that have nothing to do with your job title. Your retired self will thank you. Name what you value, not what you did. Instead of I was a lawyer, try I care about fairness and helping people navigate complexity. That value? It survives retirement. The title doesn't. Give yourself a genuine grieving period. A career is a relationship, and ending a relationship, even a good ending, deserves real acknowledgement. Don't rush past the loss. Sit with it long enough to understand what it meant. And finally, the most important thing, understand that who you are was always bigger than what you did. The job gave you a container, a visible, socially legible container that made it easy to answer the question of who you are. But you were never just the container. You were always the person inside it, curious, capable, stubborn, creative, driven, loving, and complicated. That person doesn't retire. Just a reminder as we close, the scenarios and examples we discussed today are generalized composites to ensure the privacy of individuals and are intended strictly for educational use. If you are facing a specific mental health, legal, or financial crisis, please consult with a qualified professional in your local area. Next video recommendation. You thought retirement would feel free, but it feels like losing direction.